Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim DiPaola and Johnny C. live on Real Radio.
Yeah, that's right, Real Radio. It is a soggy Saturday morning, and it's fantastic to have you with us, regardless of what the weather's like outside. Thank you for finding your way, 92.1, 101.7. And you know we go streaming live on a couple of other platforms. If you don't know, let me explain it to you. Good morning to everybody on our Facebook page. That's Florida Talk Real Estate on Facebook. We go streaming live there every Saturday morning. On YouTube as well, Florida Talk Real Estate LLC on YouTube. You'll find us there. Lots of information to be had. Plus, live streaming on a Saturday. 2 hours of infotainment is what we bring you. That's every Saturday morning, 9 until 11. That's me, Johnny C., your air traffic control. Jimmy D is the one who's making all the noise right now. But
Sorry.
In a second here. Let's say good morning to Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. How are you, my friend? Nice to see you.
What up, Johnny C?
Soggy Saturday.
Good to see you and hear you live in action. And yeah, Jimmy D's got quite the sensitive microphone there, doesn't he? Holy cow.
Very much so, but that's a beautiful thing because that means we're going to hear him loud and proud today. Speaking of loud and proud and probably a little soggy because I'm sure he was out probably prepping for, I don't know, some kind of marathon or maybe a run over to the Bahamas or something. Good morning, Ross Komarinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. Ross, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing well. Good morning. Good morning.
Are you soggy from training this morning?
You know, I'm actually welcoming today because it's a day where I can't really do anything. So I'm looking.
You're gonna have to repeat that, Ross.
Yeah, you're gonna need to repeat that because Jimmy D is overwhelming you big time. What are you happy today? What?
No, I'm saying, you know, on a day like today, it's actually a day that I kind of welcome because it's a day where I can't really do anything. So it's a day I get to kind of just rest for a second. Because if it was nice out, I would have to be out doing something.
It's forced R&R, and it's well earned, Ross.
It's the traditional rainy day. There you go.
Yes, welcome to hurricane season.
You know, I was out at Juno Beach last week over Memorial Day weekend, and I saw people out there paddling, and I was looking for Ross and hoping that I would see him out there, but maybe he was slacking last weekend too, you know?
I went out Saturday morning.
The training never stops unless, of course, he has to. Good to see you, Ross. Thanks for being with us on this Saturday. And let us say good morning to the noisy one this morning. That's my guy, Jimmy D. It's Jim DiPaola, y'all. If you've been listening to the show for a long time, I've been telling you for a long time. He runs the top producing Keller Williams team. That's the Florida Home Pros, y'all. Jimmy D, how you be?
Hey guys, happy South Florida. Sorry for all the noise. My desk is way too small since we switched offices. Before I had a ginormous desk where I could put everything on it and everything, and now I have this little tiny desk where I don't have enough to put all my stuff on, so I'm moving stuff around to get my mic in this spot and the keyboard in this spot and all that. So sorry about that. We just lost Ross. Let me get him back on here again. The signal for our StreamYard, where we're all getting together on our YouTube and Facebook channels, are pretty weak today. I had a lot of time logging on today because of the sloppy weather we're having. I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to get down here because if the rains got too bad where I live, sometimes the streets get too flooded. I might not have been able to get out to come down here. But hopefully I can get back when we're done with the show with all this rain. Ross, you're right. We are at the beginning of hurricane season. So later today, I want to talk about hurricane insurance like we always do every year, Ross. And we're just going to talk about a little bit of tips here and there about that for the hurricane season.
Just the tips.
We're also going to be talking about, what did you say, Mike? I'm sorry.
That wasn't me.
Just the tips.
Just the tips, right? None of the heavy duty stuff. Right?
I would never make a joke like that. Although when Johnny said that Ross was loud and proud, I did think of something, but I didn't say it.
I giggled a little.
Happy Pride Month.
Is it Pride Month this month?
Yes.
All right.
Were you asking?
I'm sorry. My volume is super low, so I'm barely hearing you guys. I'm sorry.
You're
So-
missing all the great content.
Yeah, I guess I missed it all. We're also going to talk to Mike about a new Florida down payment assistance programs for first-time home buyers. For mostly first-time home buyers, there's some people that have exemptions from that, and it's a new program. And we had talked about I don't know, a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago that we predicted that maybe they were going to do a down payment assistance program kind of thing, and use COVID money for it. So that's what they're doing. And we're going to take a look at that program. It can be very beneficial for a lot of people out there. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But what I'd like to talk about first, just to start off the show, well, before we start off the show, because we're going to talk about the economy, just the overview of that, I want to ask Ross, what's, for the cystic fibrosis charity event you're doing, what's the farthest now that you've paddled so far? What's the farthest distance in one time?
I'm still at 28.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. I think the last time I asked you that, you were like 8. So
Yeah.
so
I kind of went
28,
like
so
7-mile increments and I
Well,
got up to
now,
28.
28 miles. How long does that take you to do?
I mean, that one took me, it was about 7 hours, a little over 7 hours. It was not the best conditions to go out in, but I had it in my mind that I was going to do it that week. So no matter what, I went out and did it, but the conditions weren't awesome, but.
Are you doing it like on a boat with somebody assisting you, or are you kind of doing it parallel to the beach and you're just out a little bit and you're just going parallel to the beach or something like that?
Yeah. So what I did is when I did that 28, I went out behind Guanabanas. That's where I started. And then I went out Jupiter Inlet. And then I went down all the way to Palm Beach Inlet. And then came up through Palm Beach Inlet all the way up the Intercoastal back to behind Guanabanas and Jupiter.
That's really crazy.
I've done that in a boat, and it took me longer than I had hoped.
Yeah, I had a little stopover at the Phil Foster Park to fill up my water, eat something, and then. But
I was trying to
think doing something like that's kind of neat anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
I bet you must get into the zone, and it's not quite so painful. It's just like chugging through, right? It's kind of like.
Yeah, you're going, and a lot of the time, what's nice when the water is clear. I saw 3 turtles in the water last week. I saw 2 turtles mating. So there's really cool, wildlife, and our waters are beautiful. So it's nice to be on them.
That's my Native American name, by the way. 2 turtles mating.
It's the old beast with 2 backs. I was thinking, Ross, like what's like an average miles per hour? So I guess on that one you're running 4 miles an hour. Is that what's it like on a good day? Like what's a good pace for you?
Usually try to get somewhere, like if I'm going, if the conditions are fine, like it'll be, more like 5, somewhere around 5 if the like in the flat water. But when it's rough out there, it's tough to maintain it.
Wow.
That's pretty wild.
And then remind us what this is all about.
This is for the Crossing for Cystic Fibrosis. It's a race or an event to raise money for cystic fibrosis, specifically Piper's Angels Foundation, which is a local charity here. And it's an 80-mile paddle from Bimini, Bahamas to Lake Worth Pier. And we leave midnight Saturday night, June 26th, or whatever you want to call it. It's midnight Sunday morning, whatever you want to call it. But we will arrive on Lake Worth Pier in the afternoon of Sunday, June 26th. So if anybody wants to come out to the beach landing, it's kind of a big event. Come out, support it, and look at everybody that just paddled 80 miles across the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
That's going to be so crazy. Anybody that wants to contribute to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation charity connected to this event, all you have to do is go to Florida Talk Real Estate on your Facebook page. We have it pinned to the top. All you have to do is we just took Ross's posting for that and put it up there. So all you have to do is click on the buttons and you can make a donation. We'd really appreciate you supporting Ross. And Ross, thank you so much for supporting the community like this.
And I guess you could also just look directly for Piper's Angels. It'll probably get you to the right foundation as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to go into the economy because last week we had some technical difficulties and we couldn't do the show last week. So sorry about that, everybody. Just to go over the interest rates, the reason why I didn't lead off with that, because that's been such big news for so long, is the interest rates for the third week in a row have been flat. So the last time we talked about interest rates, which was 3 weeks ago, I think we were at 5.11, and now we're at 5.08. Okay, so, and last week I think we were 5.09 or something like that. So basically the last 3 weeks have been virtually flat, which is kind of what I expected to see to a certain extent. This is not surprising because basically the big interest rate increase we had recently, the biggest push recently, has been because of the shock of the Fed Reserve raising the interest rate for the Fed Reserve rate, which everybody knew they were going to do since November, right? But it became the shock, so that's why they had to do that. And I expect the interest rates to go up again, possibly around June 14th. And
Possibly.
the reason why the Fed Reserve is going to be meeting again, and they're supposed to raise it another 0.5 point for the Fed Reserve rate. Although I may, talking about the Swami, we might not see the big sticker shock that we had over the last 5 months building up to this, because you got to remember we started the year at 3.11 and now we're basically 2 points higher. And those 2 points raised in a large part because everybody was building in the Fed Reserve changes to slow down the inflation. So we've already had a big chunk of the after effect of the Fed Reserve moves happen already. And I also feel like the mortgage industry doesn't want, the bankers don't, or at least the mortgage industry doesn't want the interest rates to go up much higher because we're already seeing a lot of people leaving the banking and the mortgage industry. There's been a lot of layoffs. Mike, have you noticed that in your field? At least what I'm reading in the papers, we haven't talked about this off air, but I noticed that there's a lot of people like the Rocket, Scud Missile mortgage companies and stuff. They're all sloughing off thousands and thousands of jobs right now.
Yeah, you remember the so those big national guys that they're like, you call the 800 number. A big portion of their business traditionally is refinance business, right? So they're always trying to push refis, and so of course they had a huge run in 2020, 2021, and refis were through the roof across the industry. I mean, it was a refi frenzy, but it was smart on a lot of people's part to do that. I mean, people have locked in, a rate with the 2 in front of it, right? On a 30-year rate, which was, record breaking, never heard of before, right? So they had to beef up their support, operations, right? So operations personnel had to be hired in order to keep up the volume. And so now I think you're seeing the fall off of that. I'd be curious if they're laying off people to the levels where they, before 2020, like if they're getting smaller from their normal operations. It's possible, right? Because purchase business has also been down, I think, compared to what it was leading up to our strange 2-year run. But yeah, I mean, I guess it goes with the flow. They had to beef up to keep up with volume. I don't know, like with the mortgage firm in particular, the people usually that have the first to go would be like underwriting staff, because you have to staff up your underwriting departments in order to keep with volume. Otherwise, what we call turn times, right? The time that you submit to the underwriter by the time they make a decision, those turn times, if those start really stretching, it becomes a major headache for everybody. And so they beef up underwriting staff to keep turn times down. And then, of course, you can't continue to pay somebody to sit there and do nothing. So, I guess it's sad in some ways, but also probably predictable.
Yes, definitely predictable. It's just a function of the market, is what Mike's saying. Basically, that's exactly what's happening right now. It's not good, bad, or indifferent. But what we're doing is we're seeing a market shift. Yeah. We've been talking about the market shift for so long. The market is shifting. It's incremental. It could shift back. I don't see how that's going to happen, but we are going through a change. We were so flat for so long and so stable. how many weeks do we come on and say, yeah, we don't have to talk about the interest rates. They're at the same rate they've been, for the last 6 months, or sales are the same or thing. The biggest thing that we had to talk about was inventory. Right? Inventory was the big thing. But now
I feel like
inventory
a reprieve just these last 3 weeks, Jim, where I haven't had to keep such a sharp eye on pre-approved buyers and like adjusting rates every other day to make sure that they're still not getting priced out of certain price points. So
yeah,
I felt pretty good with this little flat run.
Yeah, like 3 whole weeks where you don't have to like freak out or the interest rate's going to kill my deal. You know what I mean? So that's kind of cool. Now,
I still did just one more thing. I still did have that shock of a person that I pre-approved in January of this year, and they're from out of town, and they were kind of like, you know how that goes. Sometimes they'll get hot in the search, and then they'll cool off once they're not finding what they look for. And then she came back looking for numbers on a house, and I think I had quoted her probably last thing was maybe like February, March, something with a low 4%, and then I came back and we're like, 5.5 or something like that. And she's like, what the heck happened? I'm like, well, here's the chart. Here's what's been happening in the world of real estate. So yeah, it's been a tough one for buyers.
January is 2 points.
877-927-6969. If you want to jump into the conversation that we're having at any point, we give you 2 hours of infotainment every Saturday. We'll take you till 11. And of course, anytime you want to jump in with questions, comments, concerns, don't be shy. Jimothy's waiting to take your phone call at 877-927-6969. You make that call, we'll take that call. Of course, if you're not comfortable on air, totally understand. You can just go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's your one-stop real estate shop. Your access to the entire team. It's easy. floridatalkrealestate.com.
Yes, thank you, Johnny. And so we've had a little bit of a reprieve for the mortgage stuff. We have to really keep an eye in a couple weeks what's going to happen when the Fed Reserve raises it again another 0.5 point, because that's what everybody expects. And then we're going to see what happens there. But now it gets to the point, though, where the interest rates are causing ripple effects, and we're going to get into that part of the function of the economy in just a little bit. Well, we'll get into that first. So then it comes down to we have these higher interest rates and what's happening with that, and not just interest rates for houses, but interest rates for everything, right? Getting a car, your credit cards, all this stuff, any revolving loan stuff, it's going higher and higher. So what are we seeing there with the economy? And what we're seeing is that remember when car sales were like going nuts and there weren't enough cars and used cars were worth more than when you bought them for? I knew people that bought a car and then sold it for more than what they paid for the car, because it was like less than a year old, to get another car, right? Back then, you could actually sell the used car for more than what you paid for it if it was within a recent amount of time. I traded my car in and got an even Steven deal on a better car because they just needed used cars that bad. Well, things have changed a little bit in the last month and a half or so. So new car sales are down about 2 million last month compared to the month before. And apparently now we're in, we sold about 12 million to 13 million cars last month. 12 to 13 million new cars. We're talking about new car sales across the nation. That's called a recessionary number. So if they keep it selling 12 to 13 million vehicles a month, the car industry, that's going to be considered a recession for them.
Wow.
Normally,
what's doing well?
I know. Well, doing well is about 15, Johnny.
Oh, okay. So they're not too far off then, because to me, 12 million a month.
Yeah, is that crazy?
Feels like the industry's doing well.
Yeah,
well, that's national.
Let me see. Maybe maybe. Hold on. Now that you're saying that, it's kind of making sense, Johnny. Hold on, right? Maybe
that many new cars every month in the nation.
Every playable tree. No.
That doesn't seem that much.
Yep, you're right, Johnny. That's annualized. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Thank you, Johnny.
So 1 million new cars sold a month?
I'm sorry?
1 million per month?
Yeah, about 1 million a month is recessionary. And, about 1.2 million to 1.3 million is okay. So they're off like 10%, 15%. So what's happening with that is that, so that's just a little sign. And what they're saying, the reason why, at first I thought, well, maybe the inventory, maybe there isn't enough inventory and they can't sell enough, right? Just like the housing market. But that isn't what they're saying. Those economists are saying, or those industry leaders are saying, it's the interest rates. People are buying, the reduction in the amount of cars being bought is from a function mostly of the higher interest rates. So we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown in the new car industry. I don't know about the used car because it didn't say anything in the article.
I'm thinking logically on that one. Like any time I've went to price a car, obviously the better the credit, the better your interest rate's going to be. But I've never really thought it made too much of a difference because you're usually looking at like a 4, 5, 6, maybe 7-year term, and like 1% rate over 7 years really isn't a huge difference. Now, if you're, maybe if your credit is not quite so good, right? You get those huge interest rates. I'd be curious if that's the main driver. What if it's just the conservative kind of underpinning under feeling for people like, holy cow, I don't need this new big expense. I need to tighten up right now because who knows what's going on with this world,
But that's exactly what I think, Mike. I think that people are starting to figure that it's time to tap the brakes a little bit. And Johnny, you and I have talked about this a lot, about people's savings. Remember we were talking in 2018 that we had the highest credit card debt ever in the history of the United States, consumer credit card debt. Remember that?
Sure, of course.
And then during 2020, I don't know what the heck happened, but during 2020, I know I'm not joking about the COVID, but we went from highest credit card debt ever, leveraged ever, to highest savings in the savings accounts ever, right? We have trillions of dollars saved compared to 2018. Go ahead,
remember,
Mike.
that you were allowed to not pay your mortgage.
Yeah. That's true. So all that money so we have trillions of dollars. So I just saw a news report a couple of days ago where they talked about how there's trillions of dollars of savings. But then I saw a report on a different channel or whatever, where they were talking about how people are putting more on, people are spending more than that they're making right now. Like they're overextending themselves, even though they have a lot of savings. So I think we're in this
very American, though, isn't it? I mean, that's very American. Don't we all? And I guess I can't say all, but don't majority of people kind of use their credit line a little bit? I mean, Mike, that's your world. You see a lot of credit reports.
Sure.
I was guilty of it. Hell, I still am from time to time. When you're in that, like, I deserve it mode, if there's room on the credit card, it's happening.
I see people, Johnny, I talk to people a lot about kind of, it's not so much credit repair, but like the other side of it. How do you start adding positive credit to kind of maybe outweigh some of the negative? And so a couple of those mechanisms are like a secured credit card, right? Where you can put a deposit down on a card. And then I'll see, you put $300 on a card, you got a $300 credit card, and all of a sudden you've got a $290 balance on it. And I have to constantly tell people, I said, listen, this credit card, you have to change your mindset. This is not a tool to buy things, right? This is a tool to improve your credit, right? You have to use it in a very specific way to get the maximum benefit from this tool. And it doesn't mean you go out and buy stuff that you can't buy, right? Or you can't afford. So yeah, I would say I see that a lot. People use credit. That's pretty, well, I'm in an industry where people, they borrow a lot of money and pay it back over time. So, but yeah, I agree. That's very U.S. centric, U.S. American.
I call it keeping up with the Johnny C's.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what everybody calls it, Ross.
Well, it's true. I totally agree with you guys, and I agree with Johnny. Americans spend their money. That's why we're the number one consumer in the world.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why everybody wants the American consumer. We consume.
But I do think there is like a conservative mentality happening, a financially conservative mentality, because Jimmy, look at the inventory. So we have record high values and the inventory remains low because people, well, number one, they realize they got to, you sell high, you also got to buy high, right, Johnny? I mean, you were kind of considering something in that situation, but also people were able to refinance, get into these super low rates for, new long term. They weren't all doing cash out. They're not all tapping into their equity. I talked to many people who just wanted to do a no cash out refinance and lock in a super low rate, which means guess what? They're not going anywhere. They're not selling their home. They're good. They got a payment that's comfortable. The income is stable. So I think that's part of the trend as well. Just like people are kind of like, we've been there, we've been through that super, wavy cycle over the past 20 years, and we're trying to, let's do it right this time.
I kind of agree with you, and I think that we're in a very choppy market, economic market. It's very choppy waters. There's some good parts and there's some not good parts, and you have to kind of wend your way through them, and you got to be prepared that you're going to go through some chop in the process. So we have we have the rising interest rates squeezing everybody, and then that's affecting car sales, right? Well, it's also affecting the new housing market too, not just new cars, but new houses. And there was a report that came out last week that we were going to talk about before we had the technical difficulties, where they were saying that the home builders' sentiment fell to a 2-year low. And what we're complaining about is declining demand and rising costs. Okay. Now, everybody, when you think of home building, you think about rising costs, right? Everything's more expensive because of the supply chain stuff. But then it said declining demand. And I'm like, what's up with that? Because, we have people camping out at new development offices overnight just to be in a lottery to bid on one of the parcels of land that's coming out. I mean, that's what it's like, right? So, but then I saw this report last night and I was like, wow, this is very interesting. There was a report that came out, and I've never heard of the people that did this. This is like a new kind of news site for me. So I if I think it might be a little sketchy, I'm going to be the first to tell you about it. I'm getting it from a site called Naked Capitalism, but they had some very good charts, and the charts were. But it was done by wolfstreet.com. So the Commerce Department, they got this stuff through the Commerce Department, which is where I'm talking to you. But here's the kind of interesting thing. New single-family houses sold annual rate. As of last month, the last time we were at that level, well, actually, the last time we were at that level was about 3 years ago for new home sales. Because we're on a downward swing right now for new home sales for about 3 months. Right?
When you say new homes, you're talking new construction.
New construction, yes, okay. Like new construction sales, right? And then we're also seeing inventory increase. And our inventory right now, this is what I thought is kind of interesting. Is Mike? I'm sorry, did you say something? Because I can have a hard time hearing people today.
No, you answered the question. I was saying when you said new home sales, you were talking specifically new construction sales.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I heard that. I thought you said something else afterwards. But our inventory for new single-family homes, so this is across the country, and it's seasonally adjusted, 2009. We haven't had this many homes available since 2009. And then our supply of inventory on new construction homes is going up quite a bit.
These are national?
Yeah, this is only national, guys. Okay, this isn't a Florida thing. I was
going to say, Johnny, it doesn't feel like that, like here locally.
It doesn't, no. Which is why I was like, this is weird.
A year ago, we had nationally, we had 3 months of supply of inventory. Now we have 9 months of inventory.
For
9 months. So we take 9 months. Based on the sales right now, it would take 9 months to clear out all the inventory. So 9 months puts you in what does 9 months put us in? That puts us in basically a neutral market leaning towards buyers.
Okay,
because normal 6 to 9 months, but I always say 6 because we haven't been at 9 months in so long. But 9 months of inventory puts us in a neutral market. Now, that's not happening here necessarily right now, but it's kind of like a shadow that comes across the country. The shadow just hasn't hit us yet. As these interest rates continue to do this and everything, we're going to start seeing a slowdown. We've also noticed, and I mentioned this to you back in April, but there was a report, or maybe early May, there was a report that came out in local South Florida, the Tri-County area, where luxury homes were flat. The amount of sales for luxury homes were flat for like 3 quarters in a row. 3 quarters, right? So this idea that the market's on fire still and that you could do whatever you want, that's not really true anymore. It's changing, and it's block by block, street by street, house by house, really, to determine what's the best and highest value for your home or your neighborhood.
I think you're still in that world, Jimmy, though, on the listing side, where you're getting multiple offers at the same time on your properties, right? You're still getting lots of eyes, lots of visits to the house, and then multiple offers to select from. Maybe you're not getting 30 anymore, but you're maybe getting 10 or 5, right? And you only need that one good one to get what you want.
Well, it isn't even like that all the time, Mike, anymore.
Well,
okay?
like you said, house by house, neighborhood by neighborhood.
Yes, but it isn't like what you just said, where instead of getting 30 offers, I'm getting 5 offers now. That's still happening. Okay, the 5 offers or something, and sometimes more than 5 offers. But I know some of our inventory. If it wasn't priced right, you might not get any offers for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And so it really is a block by block, street by street, house by house. And you really got to understand the prices now. We're seeing more problems with appraisals. We're still seeing more back on market, of more price reductions, more back on market properties. A lot more canceled and expireds are happening right now.
Yep.
When I say a lot more, I'm saying a lot more compared to 3 months ago, because we're in a kind of crazy market right now. Not a lot more, meaning we're going through some kind of crash or something like that.
But price reductions could also be, people really just throwing a crazy number out there.
That's what's happening. Okay, but that's exactly what's happening, Ross, without a doubt.
That also happens like when you're a real estate agent and you're competing for listings. Jim, you've been through this how many times, where the listing agent that agrees to the highest list price might be the one who gets the listing, right? Even though like you're letting the owners or the sellers drive that conversation versus, which I'm sure you never do, which is, here's what we got to do.
It happens all the time, especially now. And this is what the seller doesn't understand. Okay. The agent that's willing to do that has no respect for that seller whatsoever. In fact, they're violating ethical standards that they swore they weren't going to do. Because if a realtor really doesn't believe that they can sell the house for the price that you want to list it for, they're not supposed to take the listing. That's what we swore our hand to God to do when we were in when you took the ethics oath as being a realtor. Ross?
No, I was taking the oath with you.
So the thing is that when a realtor says, your house is worth $800,000 and you think your house is worth 1.2, okay? And you talk to 6 realtors and nobody wants to take it at 1.2, and you get a realtor or maybe multiple realtors that will take it at 1.2, they have no respect for you whatsoever. What they're doing is they're thinking this is what they got in their mind. That stupid seller is never going to sell the house for that price, but I'll put it at 1.2. And then when there's so few houses that I'll get buyers at 1.2 million that don't want this house. And then I'll advertise this overpriced house and get $1.2 million potential buyers that are going to come look at this house and go, this house isn't worth 1.2. And then I'm going to say, I'm talking about these unethical realtors. Yeah, you're right. This house is worth it's only worth 66% of what it's on the market for. Let me show you some other houses. And now they're getting commission on another deal and your house isn't sold. So you're helping that realtor get more business. And then the other thing the realtor is doing is that stupid realtor. That stupid seller. I'm just going to wait and wait and wait until they get so frustrated that they'll actually drop the price to a number that we can sell it for. I don't care. And that's what people do. That's what people do in real life. I swear my hand, this is all true.
We need a
So-
similar oath that you guys must take in our industry, which is I will not issue a pre-approval to a buyer who can't close.
There you go. Let's raise our hand for that one too. So, hey, I would like to talk a little bit more about this, but we're running a little late. Let's go ahead and take the break, Johnny. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about insurance. It's hurricane season. And we're going to make sure that Ross feels really good. So anybody that's had great experience with Ross, can you text or call us or do something to let Ross know that you care, because he's gone through hell and back the last couple of months.
We're about to have another one too.
I've received personal text messages, Ross, that say that you're a rock star and people are so thrilled that they've been connected to you through the show or through other references. So, you know, that says a lot, right? I mean, there's it's not on air. It's not going through Florida Talk. It's reaching out to me to be like, hey, just so you know, Ross is a rock star. I'm like, oh, I know.
How about this? I got a personal email from Ross that said, hey, your policy's coming due. Make sure you pay it. How about that? Thanks, Ross. Thanks for the reminder.
Huge.
Well, Ross wasn't on 2 weeks ago, and Patrick, one of our core fans of the show and former customer, he was talking about how he was having a problem with his insurance, and he went over to Ross, called us up, got him over to Ross, which he knew already, and Ross did a great job, got him the policy, super happy.
It's a beautiful thing. It seems
happens
to be
all
the
the
track
time.
record, Mike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say it happens all the time. I got countless experiences where Ross is winning the deal when it's multiple agents, and it's not just because like, hey, the premium's the best. No, it's the way he puts it together, the information, all of that.
So let's give Ross some love after the break.
There's Ross's virtual hug.
And if you want to reach out to any of the members of the Florida Talk Real Estate team, including Ross Komarinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach, it's real easy. We call it your one-stop real estate shop for a reason, because that means you got access to a team of pros. They're professionals in their field. And as you may have noticed over the years doing this radio show, they actually like each other. They work well together. They pick up the phone. They get answers to the questions they need specific to the deal that you're trying to get done. Whether you're buying a home, selling a home, stuck with a home, you don't know what to do. Maybe you are drowning in the cost of your property insurance. Look, this team has done so much for so many people for so long now, and it's real easy. Just go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's how you get the ball rolling. You can get connected with Ross or Mike Rao, the mortgage guy. Get with Jim DiPaola and his team with the Florida Home Pros. Literally, it's that simple. floridatalkrealestate.com. If you want, you can call the hotline. You'll find it at floridatalkrealestate.com. It's 888-973-7828. Also, remember Florida Talk Real Estate. Just think Facebook, YouTube, punch it in. You'll find us. Lots of information, lots of connectivity. And of course, we go live every Saturday on both platforms as well. Thanks for being with us. 92.1, 101.7 on the radio, and wherever you might be with your free download, your iHeartRadio app, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Use it, know it, share it, love it. It's your connection to the one-stop real estate shop, the team that is Florida Talk Real Estate. And we're right here, back in just 4 minutes from now. Count them up. I promise. 4 minutes from now, we're back at it with plenty more information and some entertainment. And your phone calls are welcome. 877-927-6969. Florida Talk Real Estate right here on Real Radio.
What's a Real Radio podcast? It's Real Radio on demand. Find your favorite show at realradio921.com.
This is an FNN news alert on Tropical Depression Alex. At 8:29 a.m., a severe thunderstorm capable of producing waterspouts was located near Sewell's Point or near Port Salerno, moving north at 40 knots. Additional showers and storms will exhibit weak rotation through the morning and may produce a waterspout or strong wind gusts near and offshore of the Treasure Coast. The tropical storm warning has been discontinued for the west coast of Florida, north of Bonita Springs. A tropical storm warning is still in effect for the Florida Keys, including the Dry Tortugas, Florida Bay, west coast of Florida from Bonita Beach south to Card Sound Bridge, the east coast of Florida south of the Volusia-Brevard County line to Card Sound Bridge and Lake Okeechobee. A tropical storm warning means that tropical storm conditions are expected somewhere within 24 hours. A tropical storm watch means that tropical storm conditions are possible. Meanwhile, heavy rain and severe street flooding have been reported throughout the area. Experts caution drivers not to attempt to drive through flooded streets, reminding drivers of the slogan, "Turn around, don't drown." This has been an FNN News Alert. I'm Tim Adkins.
From the Gordon and Partners Weather Center. Have you or a loved one been injured through no fault of your own? Call 561-333-3333 or go to fortheinjured.com.
Good morning. I'm CBS 12 Storm Track meteorologist Zach Tovey. We've got some very heavy rainfall moving into our area with numerous flood advisories at this hour. Flash flood warnings are a possibility as we continue throughout the morning, and a low-end tornado threat as well. Download the CBS 12 weather app. It'll keep you safe throughout the day.
This report is sponsored by Discover. If you're a valued customer, you deserve a simple gesture of appreciation from your credit card company. And that's why Discover matches all of the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DiPaola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Komarinetz, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
You're listening to Real Radio 92.1, and we are an iHeart radio station. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DiPaola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
That's it. That's your toll-free number. It works. Trust your boy. 877-927-6969. If you got questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate, want to get involved with the conversation we're having, go ahead and dial that up. Jimothy will get you going. And, of course, you make the call. We'll take the call here at Florida Talk Real Estate. Plenty of time for you on a Saturday. Always remember, Florida Talk Real Estate is .com. It's your one-stop real estate shop. You can find us on Facebook. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning. If you're with us, streaming on Facebook, Florida Talk Real Estate, on YouTube as well. Of course, on the radio, 92.1, 101.7, or wherever you might be with your free download, your iHeartRadio app. Great to have you with us every Saturday morning, even on a really soggy, tropical storm kind of day. Johnny C, that's me. Good morning, Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. How are you?
I'm doing great this morning. I'm like Ross. I'm looking forward to a day where I'm not even able to do much of my honey-do list. Although I should probably check it twice because there's probably some interior stuff that's on there. Shoot, I shouldn't have said that. I just jinxed myself.
Yep.
You did. You just jinxed yourself. That's
My honey is writing. Oh, I see her writing right now. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. No.
She's like, well, we can't do that, but we can do this. And when I say we, I mean you,
all
Mike.
the baseboards.
You did mention Ross. That's Ross Komarinetz, our friend at Brightway. That's Juno Beach. Brightway Insurance. The only insurance you should be looking for is in Juno Beach. Do you know it? Ross, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Wanted to give everybody a live look of what's going on with our storm that's passing through. Earlier when I was out, when we were doing the show, it was pretty nasty and it was blowing pretty good. So hopefully
you should pretend that you have like wind blowing you like the weather people do.
Start doing this.
Yeah, roll up your sleeves so we know things are really serious. Go stand in a puddle somewhere.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to be a newspaper reporter and I have to go out in those storms and cover them. So I was one of the jerky people that would be out there covering the rain and the wind and the sloppiness and all that for the hurricanes. And the thing that drove me crazy is I work for a newspaper, right? So it wasn't like I was on TV, which everybody makes fun of that anyway, right? But to make it even worse, I was a newspaper person, right? So I'm like, why am I standing out in this water up to my knees with power lines down and stuff? You know what I mean?
I think somebody was messing with you, Jim.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They're like, hey, Jim, we need you to go out there and give us a story.
Yeah, I think you did a little too literally when they said you need to immerse yourself in the story.
Yeah. It was so crazy.
He's out there with a raincoat on and he's making notes in his little spiral notebook.
Yeah. And you can't write because the pen, on the pad with all the rain, that used to happen all the time. You'd be in a car crash or something, and it's raining, you're trying to write your notes on the pad, and it was like impossible. And it's funny, Mike, you were mentioning, Johnny, editors like trying to trick me and stuff. I did have one really crazy editor one time who really, really, really did not like me. And there were 6 convicted killers who tunneled out of the prison in Belgrade, right? I don't know if you guys remember that story, but it was
kind of remember
at the time. So they actually tunneled out of the prison like Hogan's Heroes and escaped. And then they were running all over South Florida and they killed a couple of people. And they weren't like all together as a gang. They just all worked together to get out. Once they got out, they just splintered. They all separated from each other. So you're trying to find these 6 convicted killers all over the place. So they had to have a reporter out in the Belgrade area to be ready for the sightings. And oh my God, the sightings, there were so many sightings, right? We used to call them Elvis sightings because it was on for days and days. Anyway, the editor made me stay out there for like 9 or 10 days without any clothes or anything and just work me, just hoping to God that either I'd screw up or I'd quit. And what ended up happening is my production increased dramatically. And I became more entrenched in the business. And the editor didn't know what to do with me.
That website you said earlier, Jim, was it like the Naked Economist?
Naked Capitalism?
Yeah, that was Jim, the naked reporter out there with no clothes on.
Oh my God. It was so bad being out there. But
I never understood why a criminal would escape and then just start a crime spree. It's like you should escape and then just lay low, just go disappear, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, to be honest with you, they were stealing cars so they can get to Miami, and they were killing people for that. I remember that happened, and they're convicted killers.
If only they had a paddleboard, they could have got to Bimini. No time.
They're homicidal maniacs. You can't think that they're going to be acting rational, right? They're a bunch of convicted killers who tunneled out of a prison.
I don't know. Paddleboarding to the Bahamas doesn't feel rational to me. It really just doesn't.
No rational person would ever.
My rational, unless you're doing it for a great cause, like our friend Ross Komarinetz. Find out exactly what we're talking about on Florida Talk Real Estate's Facebook page if you feel giving. you can get involved with a great charitable cause. Ross is going to be paddleboarding to the Bahamas and back.
not there and back, just back.
Only the true hardcore
Slacker.
stand-up paddles go back. They're
Well,
like,
you got
hey,
to
we
get back,
made it.
right? I mean,
Hi, guys. I forgot my wallet back on the other beach.
Yeah, never mind, everybody. He's just going one way. Forget it. It's not that big of a deal. I thought he was going back to you, slacker.
I do need to make sure that we get a proper introduction to Jim DiPaola. He's the naked reporter. Of course, he also runs the top producing Keller Williams team. That's the Florida Home Pros team, y'all. Jimmy D is with us.
Good morning, everybody. Happy wet South Florida. Hey, so this is the beginning of the hurricane season. What's today? The 3rd, I think. I don't even know what today's date is. But the 1st was the official start of the hurricane season. We already have our first kind of tropically thing. It's the 4th, Johnny? Okay, 4th. It's a tropically thing going on right now. So the first thing I need to ask you, Ross, is what should people concern about as far as insurance-wise, what they should worry about, to make sure that they're properly insured? Now, I'm assuming that there's not a lot to think about with the structure part of the house. So I'm not really thinking of that too much because that's pretty much decided when you buy the house, right? It's very rare to change your insurance coverage for hurricane after you bought the policy, right?
Well, the dwelling coverage, which insures the structure, that's pretty much set.
Right. So let's talk more about the interior stuff because that does change over time for people, right?
The contents?
Yeah, like the content stuff. So how do you make sure that you're covered right? So God forbid, because I remember covering Andrew, right, and watching all those people where it was just horrible, right, and they lose everything, or the people like in New Orleans, right? So when they lose everything like that, the content insurance is really important too.
Yeah, for a typical homeowner's policy, the contents coverage is usually 50% or half of the dwelling coverage. So if your dwelling coverage is $300,000, your contents coverage is going to be $150,000 typically. Now, the lowest carriers will go on contents coverage is 25% of the dwelling coverage. So that's usually kind of the range, which is a pretty good number, If you've got $300,000 in dwelling coverage and your contents are at $150,000, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems like plenty of money, or plenty of insurance, I should say, to cover everything that you lost.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, I don't have that much stuff. Drop it down to the lowest,
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a little way to save too, is for content insurance some ways, right? Because any way to save money right now for people is a good tip. So maybe what people should check is their content insurance.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to save some money, I mean, it's probably not going to be thousands of dollars, but if you've got a high, more contents coverage that you need, and maybe you don't want replacement cost. Maybe you're like, look, I don't care if anything happens, I can take whatever they give me, and if I want to get nice new stuff, I'll get nice new stuff. But that is a way to look at saving money, but just understand what you're doing. Don't just do it just to do it.
So what happens if over time you start accumulating like jewelry? I'm just making it up, right? So you start accumulating jewelry and you're buying jewelry, like expensive jewelry, right? But usually the content insurance will just cover that no matter what.
No,
so let's say you got a Rolex watch or something that's worth tens of thousands of dollars or something like that.
Right. So jewelry, fine arts, kind of things that appreciate. The homeowners policies have a sublimit on those. So they're only covered up to depending on the carrier, they'll say jewelry is only covered up to $2,500 total. So if you have anything, any expensive pieces, or anything that really appreciates, that you want to make sure that's covered so that you get reimbursed for the value, then you're going to want to get a separate policy. You want to get a separate jewelry policy, or some carriers you can add that specific coverage to the existing policy, but I like to put it on a separate policy. So if you have jewelry and you don't have a separate policy for it, just be aware that there is a sublimit on your homeowner's coverage.
Because when you think of $150,000 for content insurance, for example, on a $300,000 house, most people would think, hey, that's plenty. But they're probably adding the jewelry in there too. Do you know what I mean? Let's say they have expensive stuff, right? That really isn't the same. That 150,000 doesn't really cover that because there's caps for certain things of that 150,000.
Right. So if you're calculating, hey, the engagement ring was 20 grand, I got 2 Rolexes at 10 each, so that's 40 grand. No, you only have 2,500 of coverage typically.
But it does cover like your dining room set, your couches, your TVs, your dishes, your pots and pans, like all of that stuff, right?
Right. The way that I try to explain it is if you take your house and you turn it upside down, everything that's going to fall out of it is going to be considered contents or personal property.
Nice. I like that. Pick it up.
That's what I use the definition for fixtures and houses.
Everything that doesn't fall out?
You turn it upside down, and everything that sticks to the new ceiling, that's a fixture.
There you go.
Right?
Makes sense.
It's the exact opposite. So whatever doesn't fall is a fixture, with the exception of some appliances. Hey, Johnny, I saw that we had a caller come in.
Yeah, it looks like George is joining us on this Saturday, toll free at 877-927-6969. Jimothy's got him lined up. Good morning, George, and welcome. You're on Florida Talk Real Estate. How are you?
Good morning, and welcome to the Magic Kingdom. We're doing good up here.
I was hoping it was going to be this, George.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. George is one of my favorite customers from a couple of years ago. Has an awesome family. We're Facebook friends. I see his stuff all the time, and I keep touch with him. So, George, I'm so happy that you called. How are you doing today?
Very good. We're so far dry up here, so we're doing good in Kissimmee. You know what I was asking, because I maybe reached that age. I'm in 55 over community, and a bunch of people have asked me about reverse mortgage. Jim, do you know much about them? I mean, are they something for?
Yeah, I do know on a personal experience, and also George, that Mike, the mortgage guy from our radio show, he's on right now. He's the one that I turned to help do a reverse mortgage for my parents when they needed it. I was not a big reverse mortgage guy before I met Mike, to be honest with you, because I always thought they were scams. Being a former crime reporter, I heard a lot of those reverse mortgages are very scammy. And I think they cleaned up the industry a lot, but also there's a lot of legitimate. And George, by the way, is a former law enforcement officer, so thank you for your service.
Yeah,
retired law enforcement, so he knows about scams too. So
that's what got me the scams.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, George, I'm barely hearing you. If you could speak up a little bit when you talk again next time, okay? But so Mike is an expert on the reverse mortgages. Mike, can you kind of give an overview of what a reverse mortgage is and what to look for in a legitimate reverse mortgage, and understanding the responsibilities for the consumer that's getting a reverse mortgage, like what they're signing up for?
Yeah, okay. So conceptually, reverse mortgage is the opposite of what we call a forward mortgage, which is like your standard mortgage. You take it and then you repay it over a certain amount of time, right? 15 years, 30 years. That's your traditional 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So the reverse mortgage, and during those 30 years, the balance on that loan is slowly being repaid, right, down to zero. So that's a forward mortgage. The reverse mortgage goes the opposite. You take the loan and then you never make a payment on it, and the balance on the loan increases over time, right? So if you take a $200,000 loan, 30 years later, that loan has a balance of $500,000, right? As an example, right? So the loan is not repaid, it grows through time. So, and that's kind of where like the scammy nature of the reverse, that idea comes in, is that the bank is going to take your home, right? So you take the whole point of the reverse is that you have people with fixed or limited income as they get older, and you want to take that income and direct it towards your lifestyle or living versus paying a mortgage payment. So if that is important for you, that you need your income to pay for other bills, for food, maybe it's even for luxury stuff, travel, right, for vacations, things like that. That's where a reverse is a good tool, because you can buy your home or refinance your home and then no longer have a mortgage payment. But so that's criteria number one. Is that important for you? Redirect your income towards living versus paying a mortgage. Criteria number two for me is it important that the home that you're leaving to your estate, right, whether your kids or your not even, well, spouse doesn't really apply, so kids and your heirs after you pass, you and your spouse pass, is it important that they're left with a home that has positive equity? And if that's the case, then maybe the reverse isn't the right tool. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be in a positive equity position upon your passing. It just means that your loan, right, the financing on that home is growing through the years, and at some point it will tip over the value of the home potentially, right? So you need to be thinking worst case scenario, you're in a negative equity position when your estate inherits the home and has to do something with it. Which, you have all the standard options. You could sell it, you could short sell it, you could let it foreclose. Like, all of those are normal options. The bank just doesn't take the home upon your passing. You, as the estate, have to deal with it, and it might be in a positive equity position, but you should probably count on it not being positive.
And the other thing I wanted just to mention about that is that if it's married spouses live in the unit together, or one of them passes, the mortgage holder passes, let's say, the other spouse can stay
for the rest of their life. That's
for
correct.
the rest of their lives, so they don't have to worry about being moved out of the house or something like that.
That's right.
That's cool. Can't you also turn it into income?
Yeah, so there's definitely financial planners out there that will use the reverse mortgage as part of your financial planning tool. So we're going to get into a little bit more detail than probably is appropriate right now, but instead of taking a big chunk at once, you can actually do a line of credit, or a combination of a big chunk and a line of credit. So through the years, as the home maybe continues to increase in value, you have access to this line of credit that you can use to supplement your income through the years. And there's some tax benefits, and there's some other financial planning benefits. And a lot of financial planners will look at that as a source of,
depending on.
Say that again, George?
No, I said it's not all negative. It could be good for some lifestyle people, but basically, once you do it, you're locked into that house.
So you can always get out of the reverse mortgage, right? So you can refinance into a standard mortgage. You can sell the home at any point. And the real question is, what's the equity position when that comes to pass, right? So you're definitely not locked into that home. Like, the reverse mortgage is structured. They're not trying to put you in a negative equity position. They actually limit you, just for argument's sake, to 50% of the value to start, Johnny. So, like, if your home is worth $500,000 right now and you don't have a loan, you can get a $250,000 loan on that home. Now, right away, if you sold that in the first 3 years, you're not in a negative equity position, right? Unless the home value tanks. Like, people got in trouble in 2008, just like everybody else, because their home value tanked. But if you're 5 years, 10 years into a reverse, you should still be in a positive equity position. But the majority of people are using this as a tool to stay in the home the rest of their life. They're set. They're not going anywhere. They just don't want to have a mortgage payment, and they want to use that equity that they have without selling the home. They want to use that equity and not have a payment obligation. And so I do love it as a financial planning, an income replacement tool, as long as you don't have kids who want to inherit something that's worth something, right? Like, you just have to make sure your kids, like, take Jim's position, right? His parents did a reverse on their home because they wanted to supplement their income, right? Or they wanted to reduce their mortgage obligation, which in fact, kind of the result is a supplemented income. And it's like, do Jim and his siblings really need to inherit a home with positive equity? And the answer was no. They're fine. Like, they're just fine with what they got. They're not planning on inheriting a home and having a windfall or whatever. So yeah, it can be definitely very appropriate for certain situations, and not all negative. Definitely some positives.
Yeah. So George, if you, I know where you live now. I don't know. That sounded weird. I know that you moved recently. I know where you live.
I know what time you shower.
I know you moved recently into a new community and everything, and I hope you enjoy. You're enjoying your new home. But
Jim, what they're doing up here in building is unbelievable.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy up in that Orlando area how much that's growing. That actually is a hotter area than Southeast Florida right now.
Our price, we had this house 1 year and it went up 25,000.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome that's happening for you. So George, if any of your friends or neighbors or anything are thinking about that reverse mortgage stuff, you know who to call, because Mike can do anything anywhere in the state. He actually can even do Georgia, North Carolina, or no, Georgia, Virginia,
Alabama,
and Colorado.
And Colorado now. That's right. I forgot.
Well, that's me. I'm personally licensed in all of those, but the mortgage firm is now operating in more states than I can. Not all 50, but a lot of them. So I've got connections anywhere.
Yeah. So George, Mike is, if I'm telling you Mike's the guy. So anybody needs any help, please, let's get him over to Mike, because that way they'll get somebody reputable to make sure that they're doing the right thing. One thing about Mike with me, and I know everybody's saying, well, of course he's going to do that. You guys are on a radio show together. But Mike asked me in multiple different ways, multiple times, to make sure that the family was going to be okay if there was no equity in the house and it just had to be let go at the end. But it gave my parents the financial needs that they needed at the time. Were we going to be okay with that? Because he made it very, very clear what could happen if this happens, what would happen if that happens, what our options were. I felt so comfortable at the end of it. So that's the kind of thing you need. You don't want just somebody slapping it together.
I was going to say, just take your example, Jim, as a specific case. It's still a positive equity, right? It's not that deep into the mortgage. The home value has increased through the years. And so that home could be sold. Let's say your mom had to sell it for some reason. She still has positive equity and can sell it with the substantial profit. So
yeah. So it isn't like you're giving up the house forever or anything. You still control the house. It's your house. You could do what you want with it. It's just that you're using the equity in a non-traditional way. And I don't want to say non-traditional isn't right, because that makes it sound like the loan is not right, but not in a way that most people think about using the equity. So that's what it's about.
Can I talk about one more scenario with that, which is real life?
Please.
So I had actually somebody who was living in the home that their grandmother had a reverse mortgage on. And this was 2014-ish. So the home value had not recovered from its heights when the grandmother took the reverse mortgage. And so it was in a negative equity position. And the call I got was, hey, I live here. Is there any way to save this home? I want to stay in the home. And yes, there is an option. And that is FHA, who the reverse mortgage is an FHA program, allows you to do a short sale or a short refinance at 95% of the current market value. So she was able to refinance the home at 95% of market value, not what she owed on the home, right?
Wow.
Just the current market value. And as long as she qualified for that new loan, right, a new FHA loan in this case, she was able to take over the home, and they basically, wipe out whatever is remaining on that balance. So, the bank never takes the home unless you let it foreclose. And even when it forecloses, the bank isn't taking the home, right? It's sold to the highest bidder at the foreclosure auction. So
that's true.
You have options. There's a lot of misinformation. It's, there's a lot of details that I'd love to talk people off air about. But yeah, if you're thinking about it, let's talk.
George, should we answer your questions?
Absolutely. And I listen to your show, even though I'm not in Palm Beach anymore, every Saturday.
Thank you so much, George. That's so awesome. I love seeing all the posts of your beautiful grandchildren on Facebook. I'm glad that we got to talk a little bit, because, I'm a big fan of you, and I see you on Facebook all the time.
I hope you make your way up to the Magic Kingdom area here.
I will call you next time I'm up there. That's for sure. Okay.
Okay. God bless you guys. Thanks you. Have
so
a great day.
Thank you, George, very much for being with us on this Saturday. And George, dial that number. It's working even in a torrential downpour at 877-927-6969. Jimothy will line you up, and you make that call. We'll take that call. Of course, if you're not comfortable calling on the radio, You can reach the pros, the entire team, your one-stop real estate shop. It's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
Just getting back to insurance, just super quick. Want to switch gears from hurricane insurance, please. If you own a home, have it. Okay, but number two, Ross, is there any new? I almost don't want to ask. Is there any new news going on in the insurance industry in the state of Florida? One of the things I didn't do, I was so busy during the special session, I never found out the results of what happened. I was so busy last week. Do you know if was there any positive news or anything that came out of that special session, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, they, one of the things, they want to not let carriers not insure roofs over 15 years old. I think Mike had touched on it before. I didn't understand what he was saying before. They want to limit attorneys' fees on the litigation side of it, but there's more that needs to happen.
Yeah, it's not enough.
Yeah.
So what that means in real life, guys, is while they made some tweaks, we're still hemorrhaging.
Yeah, and I mean, even any of the changes that they make, or that they made, we won't feel it until
a couple of years.
Yeah, 18 months or so. So it's, but we're about to, we just had a carrier a couple weeks ago early terminate 60,000 policies in Florida.
Yeah.
And we're about to have another carrier go out of business. So.
Really? Another one's coming?
Another one's coming.
That's like number 7 or something.
Oh, man, it's getting tough. This
is getting kind of scary for the state of Florida, guys, because, all this is thrown on the shoulders of the taxpayers right now. If they can't get regular policies, I'm not saying if they go from a private carrier to Citizens, it's on the taxpayers' back.
Well, not, Citizens, they're a traditional insurance company and they are regulated by Florida. But, one of the provisions in a Citizens policy is if there is a major catastrophe and Citizens does run out of money, each policyholder can be assessed up to, it's either 45 or 40% of their premium. So if your premium's, $2,000 and, they assess you, you would have to pay an additional $800 or your policy would not be renewed.
Yeah, it's gonna. We got to get through this hurricane season unscathed this year, so we could fix everything.
Let me ask you a question on the heels of that. That's if you have a claim. That's how that.
No. Like let's say we have an event where, total destruction in Florida. Citizens, uses all their cash, they exhaust their reinsurance, and they have no money to pay. They run out of money.
Gotcha.
By having a Citizens policy in the documents you sign, you agree that if that happened and there was a major catastrophe and they ran out of money, that Citizens policyholders can be assessed a percentage of their premium to help kick in for claims.
Right.
Not necessarily if you had a claim.
The good news there is that if you don't like that policy, you'll have a lot of other options. You don't have to pick Citizens, right, Ross?
Yeah. I mean, right now,
what's funny if you think about it, Jim. The Citizens is Citizens has 100% of the policies, which means all of the premiums are going into their coffers. So they'll have this huge, war chest of money. But then when there's a big event, they got 100% of the claims. Like, how are they? Like, can you imagine the phone call, the wait list when you're on hold, trying to get a claim in?
Well, I could. In what was it, 2017 or 2018? What was it, Irma, that was down in the Keys?
Mm-hmm.
We went down there, Mike, with Paul Krasker from the law office of Paul and Krasker. We went down there and met with a whole bunch of victims of the hurricane down there who lost their houses and listened to the horror stories. We went to group meetings where the residents were getting together to figure out what they were going to do. and they called it insurance churning, if I'm not mistaken. I think they used the word insurance churning, which meant that the insurance companies were arguing whether it was a hurricane or flooding or something like that between the two things, and how how the insurance policy was going to be handled. So they were passing the buck. It was like, hey, it's an insurance claim. No, it isn't. It's a flooding claim. No, it's an insurance claim. And they went back and forth, and then nothing got done for them. I found out just a few months ago, the lady, we ended up trying to help one lady. Paul went down there, and we decided that it was too messy, but he did try to help this one lady out. And she ended up getting relief, and she got her house done and everything, and she got to stay in the house and everything. And it was really cool. That poor woman was living in a house where one of the walls to her house collapsed. So she had three, instead of having a box, she had three walls. And then the third wall was shower curtains and like tarps. And you could see the raccoon fingerprints at about a 2-foot level across the inside of the house. Because when she went to work, she was a nurse or something. And when she went to work, the raccoons would go in to see if they could scavenge food. And they'd be walking in the mud and then jumping up on the walls and then touching the walls. And you'd see all these raccoon prints everywhere. And that's how that lady had to live for over a year and a half. Now, finally, she ended up buying a RV.
And then
put
she got
the
rabies.
RV on the lot. I'm sorry?
I said, and then she got rabies.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, well, she ended up getting the RV because she needed a restroom, but more importantly, she was afraid the raccoons were going to kill her pet, her dog or something. So she had to have the RV just to protect the dog from the raccoons. So anyway, it's just crazy down there. But, that's what gets me nervous. We are Florida, right? So anything that could go wrong down here, we do. Like, might as well just talk about this a little bit. Remember we mentioned a couple weeks ago about those ladies that were scamming on the real estate scams? Do you remember us talking about that? Well, it's coming out more and more, and apparently they have been doing it for 5 or 6 years, maybe even 7 years. And apparently there was a new arrest just recently in Broward County about these two women. I guess they were a married couple. And one of them worked for some kind of business where I think it was a funeral home, where she realized she had access to people's phone numbers and personal information. So when somebody died, she was working like as an administrator or an office secretary at a funeral home. She'd take the information, they'd backtrack to find the relatives, and then do research on the property that was left with the house, and then scare the heck out of the relatives that they were going to lose the house or have to pay lots of money in the probate, and then would pay them to buy the house from them pre-probate. And the example that they used 2 days ago, I think it was in the Palm Beach Post or the Sun Sentinel, I can't remember. The person, they bought the house for $20,000, said it was worth, very little. They paid the family off $20,000, said they would take care of the probate. And then 4 months later, without touching it, they sold it for, I think it was $136,000. So the people they were dealing with were elderly. So now they're looking like at crimes against the elderly stuff. And apparently they've been doing this for 7 years. And there's dozens of cases they're going back and trying to check. And the two women opened like these real estate investment companies. So they had these companies that they were working with. So the whole thing is kind of crazy. So, we've just recently been not recently, we do it all the time, but we've been having people, seem like we have a little wave of probate and estate stuff calling about. And look, that stuff is very complicated, and you need to have people that you trust and that are reputable, and not sit at your kitchen table asking you to sign documents and pushing paperwork the first time you meet them and trying to sell your house for $20,000. What can you buy for $20,000 in South Florida? Real estate. Come on. Right? What can you buy for $20,000? Somebody's offering you $20,000 for your house, unless you have 1 million liens on it, where somebody has to pay off all those liens. If somebody's offering you $20,000 for a house that has no liens on it in South Florida, I wouldn't even know what you could buy for $20,000 in South Florida.
I'm
Can't
trying to
even buy a
think.
used car.
I know you can't even buy a car. Yeah, exactly. Right. So the thing is please don't mess around with that stuff. Get reputable people that you could talk to get the advice you need to find out what's best for you.
Jim, I'm
And-
parceling my lot into 200, 1/200th of an acre pieces.
Yeah,
So,
there you go. You're fractionalizing the property
Yep,
that you rent them
yep.
out.
Yep. It's standing room only, but
I'm a Josh Gates fan. I watch a lot of Expedition Unknown. I don't know if everybody's heard of that show, but if you haven't checked it out, you should check it out because I'm a big Josh Gates fan. But he was in Sweden a couple episodes ago, and he went into the world's smallest home. At least it's documented. World's smallest home, 44 square feet. The whole home is 44 square feet, and because it's so small, it isn't allowed to be designated as residential in the country it's in, I guess Sweden or whatever. So they have it listed as, the reason why it's legal, it's an art installation because it's only 44 square feet.
I'm trying to think, how do you get to 44? That's
and it's actually two
4
levels.
by 11.
6 by 6 would be 36.
Yeah.
4 by 11.
Well, it's two levels. You have to climb up the stairs to get to all 44 square feet.
Wait a second.
It's kind of wild. Yeah, it's very wild. So anyway, that was.
It's a loft.
It isn't even a loft. You couldn't even call it a loft. Yeah, because there's a bathroom.
I heard there's
a bathroom
convicted
in it.
killers escaping from rooms that size.
I know
Tunneling
they can
under.
tunnel out.
List price in South Florida, $1.47 million.
He actually
Location,
said that
Rauch.
on the show. He said based on South Florida, he actually used South Florida values. He goes, in Miami, this would be super cheap at $800,000. That's what he said.
You could rent it for $2,800 a month.
Exactly. And don't expect the rent to go up next year.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
You better lock that in.
Yeah, so just be careful, all the scams. And then the other thing I want to mention, because I want to take the break at 10:30, Johnny, okay, because we missed the 10 o'clock. Or Jimothy, I want to take the break at 10:30. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is your mother's brother's, sister's, cousin's, friend's realtor. Okay. Got another one of those calls, actually two of them last week. And as always, it happens. They always call me after they hire the other agent, right?
Always.
A big fan of your show, Jim. And I want to, now I'm all screwed up and I needed your help. I'm like, you needed my help before you hired that other agent. You don't need my help now. You need my help. You needed my help before you hired that agent.
Now they just need your advice.
Yeah. So one of them, and I really appreciate this because there's a guy named John who's a big fan of the show. And John, thank you so much. He's I don't know if he's still here right now, but he's been such a loyal, great fan of the show. And he just likes knowing about real estate marketing. He finds the show interesting. And he had a friend that was having a real problem with the realtor they were working with. So he called me up and said, hey, if the deal falls apart for the listing, I'd like my friend to talk to you. And the friend ended up finding a buyer on his own without the realtor and then is able to close. It looks like it's going through in his closing. So I'm happy for the guy, but He had a very poor experience. And then I had another person call me up who's a big fan of the show, and he and his wife are trying to sell a property. I'm not going to mention cities or anything or prices because I don't want to. He's a fan of the show, right? I don't want to make it look like somebody figures out who his house is. But so anyway, he lives in South Florida, and he called up and he said he was a big fan of the show and was selling a property that I know the neighborhood very well and sold many properties in. So I didn't really have to do comps. And he told me what he had the house on the market for. And there's already been at least one price drop. And this neighborhood is pretty hot, but it's cooling off a little bit. And it just depends on your house. And the other thing that happened is the realtor ended up taking an offer. Now, this is the thing I found to be very interesting. The sellers end up taking an offer from a person that's going to be buying the house through an LLC. So an LLC obviously is a company, so it isn't going to be like a personal residence home necessarily, although it could be. but it's not going to have the homestead exemption and everything for whatever reason. Sound like to me it was more like an Airbnb company, but the seller didn't even know who the buyer was, didn't understand the motivation for buying the house, didn't know what was going on, which tells me that the agent didn't talk to them and vet the buyer correctly. It's so important to vet your buyer to understand not just that they're giving you the price and the terms, but find out why they're buying the house and ask them. You want to find out motivation. How emotionally connected are their house to the house are they? Right?
Can I ask, Jim, why do you care about that? What's the importance of understanding that?
Well, first of all, it helps with negotiation, right? So before you go to the contract, it's really good to know how motivated the person you're dealing with, because you might be able to strike a better deal, right? That's the first thing, a better deal for your seller. The other thing is also making sure that they can actually close.
Aha.
And the other thing is, especially in today's market with that particular neighborhood, which there's a lot of neighborhoods like this in South Florida, many people are buying from out of state, out of area. Okay. A lot of those people, they're buying like from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. They know how hard the market is down here, and they can't be staying down here all the time to look at every property. So if they don't find their property right away, they tell their agent that's looking and scoping out stuff down here all the time, just throw in multiple offers on multiple properties. And then when we get the contract accepted, then we'll decide if we really want the house or not. Okay. You don't really want to go on a contract on that kind of deal unless you have to, because you're just throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing if it's going to stick. And if it doesn't stick, your house could be damaged in value, because now you're going to go back on market. When a house goes back on market, what's the first thing you think buyers ask or agent asks the listing agent when it goes back on market?
What's wrong with it?
What happened?
Yeah, and usually it's two things, either what Ross says, which is what's wrong with the house, or why didn't it appraise? Those are the two answers all the time. Didn't appraise, or something's wrong with the house. Neither of those are good for you as a seller. So you don't want back on market if you can avoid it at all costs. Okay. The other thing that happened is that so the realtor doesn't know the motivation of the buyer. Then the buyer went in and did an inspection. And during the inspection, they started beating up the seller really bad. Not about traditional, this is broken, that's broken. What they were saying is the way that the house was built, I'm not going to get into it too much, okay? But the way the house was built, he was questioning it, whether it was a true X-bedroom home or if it's actually a smaller home with illegal additions or conversions or unpermitted conditions or conversions or something like that, right? So they went back and forth with it over and over again. And the buyer actually wanted reduction in value because they felt that there were violations with the house. Talking to the buyers, talking to the sellers, I don't really think there was anything to worry about. I think this was an investor just trying to beat them up. And the thing that I found interesting is their agent caved in. So they did end up closing the deal, but the agent changed language in the MLS to reflect what the complaint was of the buyer. And when I did my cursory check, I didn't think it was even worth talking about. Right? It was just a ploy to try to get the house for less money, in my opinion. Right? So what's happened? They took the house off the market for a bunch of time, a week or two. And now I guess they're putting it back on there. I haven't checked, but I guess because I talked to them earlier this week, they said they were going to talk to the agent and then put the house back on the market and then try another shot, and try to get the house sold. The other thing I found very interesting, this is a very, like I said, very desirable neighborhood, but it's starting to cool off a little bit. That house 4 months ago, 5 months ago, at the price it was put on the market for, and based on the photos I saw, should have had multiple offers like we were talking about earlier in the show, and didn't ended up doing that. What ended up happening is they only had that one offer, and it had been on the market like 20 days or something like that. So, And then the offer wasn't really a legitimate offer. They were just giving them what they wanted and then planning on beating them up after they got them in a contract. So don't do that. So now the guy's kicking himself. So he was telling me after I talked to him, I said, I can't solicit your business. You're with another agent. But when I talked to him, he wanted a second opinion. So I gave it to him. But he was like, wow, I really, really shouldn't have done what I did. He goes, and I said, well, why did you hire that person? And he goes, because I made a commitment like 3 or 4 years ago that if I were to sell the house, that was the person that was selling it. So I went and checked the stats on the person. And in the last 12 months, they've done 3 deals in 12 months. Okay.
So it's not their full-time gig.
Yeah. I heard maybe it was, and they had a health condition. So I give people grace for that because I've had my own. But I just went on a listed appointment earlier this week, and I had to check my stats. In the last 52 weeks, I've done 48 deals. So it was 3 deals versus 48 deals. And then he called me for the advice. I had all the answers. His agent changed his listing. You know what I mean? Instead of getting the right answers, changed the listing. It's like, oh, I'm just going to believe what this buyer is telling me. And I'm just going to put it a listing that way. And it shouldn't have done it. So don't use, the bottom line is, the guy actually said to me, I said, you know what this story is? To the guy, he was a really nice guy, right? And he goes, I go, you know what the moral of the story is? And he goes, what? And I go, don't hire your mother's brother's, cousin's, sister's, friend's girlfriend, to sell your house. Go find a real agent. You're talking about a big ticket item. Go find somebody who knows what they're doing. And he goes, I listen to you all the time, and I heard you say that all the time, and I did exactly what you told me not to do. And now he's kicking himself.
Or at the very least, you need to vet these people. Pull the stats, like Jim just said. Let's see what your production is. How's your last 6 months gone? How's your last 12 months gone? What is your production? How good are you at what you do? If somebody balks when you sit down, Jim, if somebody says, show me your production, do you even hesitate?
No. And, sometimes I'm not going to win. I'm only in the top 5%. So there's 4%. There's 4% that's better than me, right? Or 4.999% better than me as far as production. So I might lose on that, but I'm not embarrassed about my stats. My stats are in the top 5%.
Yeah, that's just it. If somebody's pushing back on you when it comes to that, that means that they are not proud of what they're about to show you. And there's a reason that they don't want to show you. It's because you're probably not going to make a decision to choose them based on what you see. It's a simple process. Vet the people you're working with. Make sure you're working with people that are not only good at what they do, make sure they're great at what they do. That's why I've been hosting this show for 11 years now. How long are we there? Yeah,
close. Yep.
There's a reason. Look, I'm not going to tell you I don't get paid, but there's a reason I'm here every Saturday because I believe in what this team does. I purchased a home with this team. I've refied with this team. I get my property insurance with this. I've done my my planning through my family. I literally have utilized so many aspects of this team. Why? Because I know how good they are at what they do, which is why I'm here to tell you. Go to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. I put my name on the line and have for all these years as well. My reputation I built, as poor as it may be, over Real Radio for 18 years. You can trust when I say you're working with the best of the best. At least be part of the equation. Put them in the mix. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com is your one-stop real estate shop. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Look, we're taking a 4-minute break. We come back. We got another big segment for you. Lots of information, hopefully a little entertainment, and your phone call. You can squeeze it in at 877-927-6969. Jimmy D.
Chet, thank you for the outgo. I just wanted to say, on the flip side, we're going to be talking about the new Florida down payment assistance program for first-time home buyers. Their benefits are pretty good overall. And we're going to give you all the details. Okay. There's $100 million floating out there for people to help buy houses right now.
I know personal experience, man, a little bit of assistance can go a long way in the difference between you being able to close on your first home and not. That's very valuable information. So stick around. And by the way, make sure you're sharing this with folks because you never know whose life you can change by sending them to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. 4 minutes from now, we're back at it. Great to have you with us every Saturday. Florida Talk Real Estate. It's right here on Real Radio.
Got something to say?
I got something to say.
Text us at 47142. Start your message with Real Radio. Standard data and message rates apply, and don't text while driving.
This is an FNN News Alert on Tropical Depression Alex. Close to 8 inches of rain have fallen in Miami this morning. Additional rainfall amounts of 1 to 3 inches are possible. Flash flooding has been reported in Brickell and downtown Miami this morning. Experts caution drivers not to attempt to drive on flooded streets, reminding drivers of the slogan, "Don't drown, turn around." Meanwhile, a flood watch remains in effect until 8 p.m. as excessive rainfall continues to be possible in the areas of Indian River, Martin, and St. Lucie counties until 8 p.m. this evening. A flood watch means that flooding conditions are possible within the watch area, and a flood warning means conditions are expected. The National Hurricane Center is predicting heavy rainfall to continue throughout the day for South Florida and the Keys. Expect periods of heavy rain between morning and noon, along with occasional tropical storm gusts. Afternoon conditions are expected to improve dramatically, with patches of sun breaking through, but there are still bands of rain that can streak through the area, and if those bands go over an area already flooded, more advisories could be issued. This has been an FNN News Alert. I'm Tim Adkins.
This is WZZR FM, West Palm Beach, Real Radio 92.1, powered by the law offices of Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Been in an accident? Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733.
From the Gordon and Partners Weather Center. Have you or a loved one been injured through no fault of your own? Call 561-333-3333 or go to fortheinjured.com.
Happy Saturday, everybody. I'm CBS 12 Storm Track meteorologist Zach Tovey. Flash flooding remains a potential as heavy rain continues for Palm Beach County over the next several hours as a tropical entity slides its way across Florida. We should begin to dry out later on this afternoon and this evening, with clearing skies as we head through the overnight hours. Stay weather aware and download CBS 12 Weather app.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag. Wendy's Biggie Bag is still just $5. Get a double stacked junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT plus 4-piece nugs, small fries, and a small drink. Grab your bag at Wendy's today. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DiPaola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title, that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Komarinetz, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
Don't drive much, don't pay much with pay-per-mile insurance from Allstate. Life is good when you're in the driver's seat. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
You're listening to Real Radio 92.1, and we are an iHeart radio station.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
I think this
we're
is
on the radio, aren't we? Ah.
Hey, how's it going? Are we live?
I think so. I
Yeah.
believe so.
I'm not sure because Timothy's.
This is Florida Talk Real
There it
Estate.
is.
Jim DiPaola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show?
Not seeing the bouncy thing.
877-927-6969.
There it is. That was the cue I was waiting for. Welcome back, and thanks for being with us on a very professional Saturday here on Real Radio 92.1, 101.7. Worldwide with your free download, your iHeartRadio app. That's right. We are worldwide, stepping all over the audio guy, jumping in during the commercial breaks. That's the professionalism that I bring every Saturday here, Florida Talk Real Estate. I'm your boy, Johnny C. Good morning, Mike Rauch, mortgage guy from the mortgage firm. Speaking of professionals, he's one of the best.
I did not say anything as we were coming back into the show, so I'm feeling
highlight
pretty
it.
good.
You were very silent and extremely professional. So was Ross Komarinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach.
We're pros, Johnny.
Pros.
We're pros.
You never let me down. It was me and Jimmy D going, oh no. But Jim always follows my lead. And sorry, I led us into that rough spot right there. Jimmy D, that's my guy, Jim DiPaola. I've told you for years now he runs the top producing Keller Williams team. If you don't know, now you know. It's the Florida Home Pros. Jimmy D, how you be?
Yeah, thank you, Johnny. Thank you. So we haven't talked about this in so long, but there's many names for it, but what the industry calls it is DPA, right? So DPA, which is down payment assistance, right? So back when we first started the show, DPAs, or down payment assistant, was a really great program. And I think we were using it, Mike, until from 2012 when we started the show, all the way until 2015, 2016, if I'm not mistaken, Mike. Is that true?
Well, I don't know what you're doing when the start of the show because I haven't been on as the mortgage expert quite that long. But I know that Johnny, for example, was a real life situation where down payment assistance helped him get into his first home.
And we had a couple of people, Mike, that got down payment assistance with you where they actually made money at closing.
You mean got money back at closing?
Yeah, they got money back at closing.
Yeah, and the St. Lucie County used to have the best program out there, which was $15,000 of down payment assistance that was forgiven after 5 years at the rate of 20% per year, so you never had to pay it back. I would say in general, Jim, the down payment assistance, in my view, had two strings attached to it that kind of made it, if you could come up with the cash some other way, it probably was beneficial. And so for the past, let's just say, 4 or 5 years, the down payment assistance has been with Florida Housing has been $7,500 as a repayable, a zero interest, non-amortizing, but attached to the home $7,500 grant, right? And so if you ever sold the home or refinanced the home, you had to repay that money or move out of it even, right? It's no longer your primary. You had to repay that money. So that's not the end of the world. But the second thing, which always kind of stuck with me, is that the interest rate that you would get because you had that program would be higher than it would be otherwise, right? So for $7,500, I always thought, like, is there some other way? Like, one example, Jimmy, you could take a higher interest rate than normal, right? Just like you could pay points to buy a lower rate, you could take a higher interest rate than normal that would pay you some money. And that might have been a better way to make up that gap because you don't have that second that stays attached to the home.
Yep.
Right. So, but they came out just recently, funnily enough, we talked about this, like what are the changes we're going to see in the industry, and I think you talked about we're going to see more of what we call the exotic loan products, right?
Loans.
Like the ARMs with the interest rates and the adjustable rate periods, and so we're seeing some of that. There's definitely a lot of big marketing push for those types of lenders, right? Those portfolio products that are non-conforming. And we're also, I thought maybe we'd see some help on the down payment assistance, right? Like maybe there's just a way to get people, because think about this, as home prices rise, those minimum down payments, right? 3%, 3.5%, 5%, guess what? Those numbers get bigger and bigger. And so it's hard. Think about it. For every, a $300,000 home, 5% down payment, right? That's
15.
yeah, $15,000. And that's hard. That's hard for people to put that kind of money together. It's not easy. It's not easy.
And then you have to pay your closing costs and your prepaids and everything else.
Yeah,
so that,
yeah, not just the down payment, but the whole costs go up from there. And so it's hard to put that kind of money together, especially for first-time home buyers. And so anyway, down payment assistance has been a tool that's been in the tool belt. And so Florida Housing recently upped that from $7,500 to $10,000, right, as a kind of their standard down payment assistance offering with those two strings, right? It stays attached to the home. Interest rates probably a little bit higher than it should be, but they just released on June 1st, so just a couple days ago, what they're calling their Hometown Heroes product, which is pretty attractive, and it's getting a lot of traction, I think, in the the local. I don't know if it's the news cycles or the word of mouth cycles, but it's definitely kind of been a hot topic, but rightly so, because it's pretty attractive.
Yeah, so let's go over some of this. So the first thing, I'm going to have you kind of walk us through it, but the first thing is they're for government-backed loans, right? So FHA, VA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans.
All your standard loan products, which would be conventional loans, FHA loans, VA loans, USDA loans. They're all eligible.
Okay, so as long as you're doing a conventionally backed or conforming loan,
yes,
you can get this. So you don't have to do FHA or have to do VA or something like that.
Right. So that's one of the requirements. Yes.
Okay. And then they can get up to 5% of what the purchase price is, I'm guessing.
As the down payment assistance. So there's two things. Number one, the program is for the first loan, but it also makes you eligible for the down payment assistance second. And that can be up to 5% with a max of $25,000 as the and that can go towards your down payment and your closing costs. So your total kind of required cash on the buyer side can be encompassed in that $25,000.
So if I were buying a $300,000 house,
so you'd be maxed at 5%. So 15
grand, right?
Yeah.
And then nobody can get more than 25.
That's
no matter, yeah, right. And then the thing is the 5% on the 300,000 in the example I'm using, you could use that for either the down payment on the loan or the closing costs.
So yeah, it can go towards your entire buyer side obligation, which would be a combination of down payment, closing costs, and what I call prepaid items, or like, for Ross, your first year of homeowners insurance is a fee that's collected at close. It can go towards that as well.
Okay. And then the other thing is how do you pay it back?
So you don't pay it back. It stays attached to the home as a second loan. It's not interest bearing, so it's 0%. And those caveats still apply, Jim. So if you ever sell the home,
you got to pay it back.
The home, or move out of it, or stop using it as a primary, then that loan becomes payable. If you go the full 30 years and you extinguish the loan, then it's actually, I don't. You know what? Maybe not. I shouldn't say that, because it might stay attached to the home even after your 30 years. I have to think about that or look into it. But I think probably the conservative approach should be, hey, this is $15,000 that I don't have as equity. So when the time comes that I'm going to sell the home.
Yeah, and it says here, Mike, just to answer that last thing, it says the Florida Hometown Heroes loan is not forgivable, period. Not forgivable. So even after 30 years, you still have to pay that $7,500 back in the example we used.
You know what? I want to look into that because I think if you go the full term, there might be something there. But anyway, it's not like forgivable over 5 years like that Port St. Lucie program was back in the day. But yeah, it's pretty.
And then I understand that they
Oh.
actually give you a reduced interest rate.
Yeah, so that's the other thing.
What's going on with that? I never heard of that before.
So that second caveat is the one that always stuck in my craw, which was you're getting a higher interest rate than you should, and there was other ways to kind of get that money and take a higher rate. So in this case, you're actually getting rates that are equivalent or perhaps even better than what you would get on like what I would consider a par rate for a normal loan. If you were doing a conventional loan at 5% down, you might be getting a better rate under the Hometown Heroes program than you would without the down payment assistance. Or
How does that work? Like, because how does the Hometown Heroes be able to offer a lower interest rate? Because any mortgage company that's qualified can do this program, right? So isn't it almost like Hometown Heroes telling your mortgage company, "Hey, you can only charge this"? Is that what happens? I don't get how they get to reduce the interest rate.
So the loan program itself is always run through and administered by U.S. Bank. So U.S. Bank is the lender who's kind of tasked of being the lender, and so ultimately the relationship between the mortgage firm and U.S. Bank is kind of like a behind the scenes thing. So I don't know exactly how the dollars and cents are all working.
Okay.
I think it's normal. Like it looks like normal. From my point of view, just as if the mortgage firm was your lender in this case, but it is going to be U.S. Bank, and so I guess they have reduced rates, or maybe there's some sort of what do you call it when the not a supplement, but the state is using some of their funds probably to make up whatever gaps are there. But I mean they're really making it attractive for and it's not even frontline workers. Like people traditionally think police, fire. Medical profession, but it's actually a pretty wide swath.
Yeah, I read some of that yesterday. So this isn't just for the frontline emergency people that we've talked about. Thank you for your service. I'm not making light of that. I'm just saying it's expanded from that, which is a good thing, I think. But we always knew that like teachers and firefighters and police officers and government workers, they were all, and a lot of medical people, they were all included. How much wider has that net been cast?
I would say it's pretty wide. I think you and I, Jimmy, were talking about like if you have a license that is managed by a state government agency, you might be eligible. And then I thought, well, what about real estate agents? Like real estate agents are licensed, insurance agents are licensed,
mortgage brokers.
Yeah, more loan originators are licensed, but those ones aren't there. But let me read you a couple that might be surprising.
Sure.
So you got law enforcement, medical professionals, teachers, right? Those are pretty standard. How about childcare instructors, right? So licensed childcare facility employees, or if you have a licensed home childcare provider. How about acupuncturist? Right, somebody licensed with the Florida Board of Acupuncture, they're going to be eligible. Chiropractic. How about?
Were they dubbed essential employees when we hit the pandemic? Like to me, essential employees feels like a good benchmark. We already established.
How about this one, Johnny? You ready?
Yeah.
Athletic trainer. Somebody licensed with the Florida Board of Athletic Training.
Huh.
Electrologist. Anybody know what an electrologist is?
Hey, if you don't have one of these licenses, what you should do is go and find the easiest license to get, and then go buy your house. No,
how about this? So people think, medical professional. What about this one? A hearing aid specialist. So somebody licensed with the Florida Board of Hearing Aid Specialists. Mm-hmm. Veterinarians, right? Obviously, military veterans, active military personnel. So it's a pretty wide swath. And so I would say if you have a Florida state license for your occupation, it's at least worth checking into. I don't see disc jockey on here, Johnny.
Good. I would never.
Right.
There's also an exception for veterans and active military people that I think is really cool. And the exemption is that you don't have to be a first-time home buyer if you're an active military or a vet.
Yeah. And just to clarify, so that rule on first-time home buyers basically means if you haven't owned a home, meaning you have not been on title to a home in the last 3 years, you are considered a first-time home buyer, right? So don't think, hey, I bought my house 10 years ago and sold it or lost it foreclosure, whatever it was. You are still eligible as long as you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years.
Is it actually 3 years to the calendar date, or is it like 3 years? Let's say you sell your house January 2021.
Uh-huh.
Is January 2024 okay, or do you have to be?
Yeah, I would say no. I would say 3 calendar years. So just count 365 days times 3 from the day you sold your home.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. So and that's what a first-time home buyer is. So it's any person that hasn't been on title to a property in 3 years.
Now there's also there's always with this stuff there is nuance to whether you're eligible for this or not, and so there's minimum credit score requirements that are a little bit higher than loan qualifying credit score requirements. There's income limits, right? And there's if you're over a certain threshold on income, you won't be eligible at all. If you're within certain margin, the benefits or the options for you a little bit different than they would be if you're under a certain limit. The debt to income ratios are a little bit tighter under this program than they are traditionally. Say FHA, 55%. This one might be limited to 50%, right? Just as an example of a difference. Go ahead, John.
I see.
There was a weird caveat for my down payment assistance where we actually had to make a certain amount of money. We had to meet a certain threshold to qualify. Are there any weird kind of pockets like that for this one?
So,
where maybe you don't make enough income to qualify for it?
You definitely have. I mean, just like any loan, you have a debt to income ratio that you can't exceed, right? Meaning you can't go higher. You can't qualify for 75% of your income towards a mortgage payment. But there's also you have to just qualify for the payment, Johnny. So there's always a minimum income required to qualify for whatever loan you're trying to do, right? Because you qualify for a payment. I don't think there's a minimum income required to be eligible for the program, but you definitely need amount of income required to make the payment that's going to come
just
along.
like any loan, right?
Yeah. So it could be that hey, with your existing debt, Johnny, you guys need to be making X amount per year. Right, in order to get into this payment.
The income limits, I'm looking at the chart right now. So
pretty
just
healthy.
to give it as an example, in Palm Beach County, right? In Palm Beach County for FHA and USDA loans, you can't go higher than a 460 purchase, right?
So,
or a loan, 460 loan.
The loan limits are basically the standard. 460 is the max FHA loan in Palm Beach, any of our the counties we deal with, and then the max conventional loan is
647
200.
Yeah.
And the income limits are different, and they're based on what they call area median income. And I don't think the FHA and USDA or VA have the income limits don't apply when you're doing those programs under Hometown Heroes. And then under conventional, it's something like 80% of the AMI gets you into a certain category. And if you exceed that 80%, so let's say the average median income is 100,000, right, for a household.
That's AMI, average medium income.
Average medium income.
Median, yeah. And so if it's 100,000, then if you're at 80% of that, so your household income is 80,000 a year, you qualify for something like that. If you exceed that 80%, you still qualify, but you're in a certain category. But if you go over a certain threshold, you're just not going to be eligible for this assistance. So anyway, those are all the nitty gritty. That's why you talk to the guy who knows about this stuff and look at your individual situation.
Yep. And just to give you an idea of income, it does vary. It's roughly, I'm looking at the chart right now for all 67 counties. It probably varies by about 40,000 for annual income, between depending on what county you are. But you're probably looking at about 120,000 a year. Would that be for single or couples?
So the income for the people on the loan.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay,
So this
on
is
the
not
loan
that
itself. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not household income. Sometimes you'll have what's the entire house's income. But in this case, it's borrower's income, whatever income you're using for qualifying, and that's what the limits are based on. But they're pretty healthy.
Actually, I feel bad that Stacy's one of our buyers, and she usually comes in every Saturday, but she hasn't done this show. And I was thinking this might be a good program for Stacy if she has the right kind of profession.
I think I forget what Stacy does. I think she works for the state, but it might not be one of these. I don't know. Well, we can look at that. I'd love to talk to her about it.
Yeah. So anybody that's anybody that's thinking that's like, I can afford to make a mortgage payment, but I don't have all the money I need to get me into the house, this might be a great program. And if anybody's thinking that they need to save money in order to get into the house, but they feel like they're qualified for the mortgage, you got to pick up the phone and call us. And the reason why is, while you're waiting to save the money, the interest rates might continue to go up, and it might be better to use a program like this and get in earlier if you can. Go ahead, Mike.
Just real quick, you can also do this without the down payment assistance component. So you might just benefit by the interest rate that's slightly better without needing the down payment assistance.
Okay, awesome.
And
Sorry,
my mind went right to the people that have been really fighting for a year and a half and just can't get their bids accepted, and another $15,000 may get them over the top. I again, you need to work with professionals. Numbers always matter. We down payment assistance to buy our home, and when we did our refi, that had to come into the equation. Whether or not the refi made sense, the numbers always matter, which is why you got to go to people that are great at what they do, like Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy. He'll help walk through the numbers to see if this is right for you. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. It's your access to the entire team. We call it your one-stop real estate shop for a reason. It's a team of pros, and you find them all at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. You got the hotline there, 888-973-7828. You can call that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's answered by a live body, and we'll get you connected to the pro that you're looking for at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Mike Rauch, please stay dry and safe on this soggy Saturday.
Will do. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Hope your honeydew list stays short. Ross, enjoy your free time on this Saturday, and I hope you stay safe and dry as well.
Thank you. I hope you do too.
Yes, everybody stay safe and healthy. Johnny.
Thank you, Jimmy D. Please have a great weekend as well. Try not to be too busy, okay?
Okay, I'll try.
All right, excellent. I invite you all to stick around. We got 4 hours with Greek and Joe, and Jimothy's going to stick around too. The locker room is next, and we'll be back next Saturday. It's 2 hours of infotainment right here, Florida Talk Real Estate on Real Radio.